The experience was undeniably genuine. Because I am really religious and because I have had these experiences very profoundly, as well as because I have felt them very deeply within me. I had just gone to bed when suddenly I experienced the sensation of escaping my own body, which was a really weird experience. I found myself in what seemed to be a world or a cosmos where I saw myself as a young boy of 5 years old sitting in something that resembled a phone booth, but was green in color. I was carrying about a toy that reminded me of a magic wand that I actually owned when I was a little lad. Then, someone flew up to me in some type of cart and inquired as to whether or not I was interested in going on a voyage into space. I couldn't help but respond in the affirmative right away because everything looked so familiar. I hopped up into this cart, and the employee then drove me around to the different areas of the building. The first one had a door with a sign that said "Passed." I was given permission to go in, and while I was doing so, I was able to look down, and as I did so, I saw myself as a young kid in my mother's yard when I was 5 years old, catching butterflies in a small butterfly net. It looked and felt really genuine, and in addition, I noticed a few other things. I exited the room via the door and entered the cart once more. After that, we proceeded to the door leading to the future. As soon as I walked into that area, I noticed a massive black book sitting atop a makeshift altar. I got a better look, and then I opened the book. The term languages was the sole piece of text that was written on the very first page of the document. It is quite clear that I take great pleasure in writing poems, and everyone agrees that I have a genuine gift for it. After that, we proceeded to the room that had the word love written on the door. When I entered, there was an extremely foggy gray cloud positioned in the middle of the room. As I got closer, I found myself within the cloud, where I was greeted by Joke, who was my first love, as well as Lydia. I was at a loss for what to do there, so I made the decision to head back outdoors. After I turned around and glanced behind me, the cloud was gone, and all that was left was Lydia standing there. After that, I was set down at the front door of the family by the cart. After entering the building, I turned to the left and noticed a line of individuals beginning with my grandparents and continuing on past them. After them stood a large number of additional people, and I got the distinct impression that we were looking at my family tree. When I looked to my right, I noticed a line of individuals that included my mother, my aunts, their children, and another line of people behind them. After I had exited the building, I was questioned about whether or not I desired to go back to Lannick. My mother, who had not been present until this point, and I quickly made our way to the cemetery in Lannick without waiting for me to provide a response. At the entryway there was a crowd of people who were extraordinarily tall. Jesus was the most significant, followed by the dog riot. As the details of the image became clearer to me, I slowly came to the realization that it was in fact Hitler. He was dressed in an imposing costume. After all of the horrible things that he did, it is only fitting that he was in league with the devil. My past flashed before me. Out of my control, I saw myself as a 5-year-old boy. I am now 100% sure that heaven exists, and I am sure that man has gifts to help others without personal gain. It has been and still is an incredible experience. It's funny, because whatever my mother and I touched turned into gold, brick, tombstones, and other things like that. There was also a man present who worked as a jeweler, and made us an offer for a significant sum of money to purchase all of that gold. Instantaneously, I was no longer in that graveyard, and I felt myself being drawn upward. After traveling to a stunning location, I was overcome with an unexplainable sense of happiness when I finally arrived. There were humans and animals, some of which had been dead for some time. Then I arrived to what seemed to be a palace, and I knew immediately that it was the home of God. When I tried to enter, 2 guards who were holding shields and lances blocked my path. They inquired as to the purpose of my presence, and I responded by stating, "I'm seeking for God. Would you kindly summon him for me?" These watchmen were stationed in front of a huge, gorgeous porch that shone brightly and was decorated with diamonds. The phrase "I'll go see whether God has time for you" was spoken by one of the guards as he entered the porch. I waited 15 minutes, half an hour, and 1 hour, but the guard did not return at any of those times. Suddenly, he came back into view through the bright porch, and I questioned him by asking, "Is God going to see me now, please?" He said, "Dear Eric, God most certainly does not have time for you yet, and because of this, he cannot see you." I asked him to let me remain up there because I didn't want to lose the feeling of joy I had when I was there. On the other hand, The guard shared with me, God gave me precise orders to send you back to Earth since you still have an essential role there. Despite the fact that this made me feel a little bit disheartened, I continued to have feelings of happiness. Scenes from the world's future that I can do paranormal things like helping people without personal gain, work with the pendulum, healing stones. I see people who are already on the other side, and sometimes I hear things. It was quite unusual because when I woke up in my bed in my room, I was sobbing, but the tears I was crying were not tears of grief but rather tears of pleasure. The second time, which is a completely different scenario, I awoke in a hospital with my mother and emergency room physicians surrounding me. This time, I had a completely different experience. In addition to this, they had arranged for a priest to come and perform the final rites. However, I will write about those experiences on the website the next time I update it. The interesting thing is that as a result of my past experience, I am quite excellent at using the pendulum because I can feel things about other people. Sometimes I see individuals who have passed away, like my younger brother Danny, who passed away on September 3rd of last year due to liver failure. Other times, I see people who are still alive. I still find it hard to believe that not only Hitler, but also the devil himself were in the same room with me at the time. I cannot even begin to fathom what Adolf Hitler must have gone through when he was able to experience the suffering of millions of people. God made it clear to me when I had acted lovingly toward others without giving it any thought, and when I had acted in a manner that was unloving toward others. I even had a glimpse of me grabbing candies from a store and thinking to myself, thank goodness nobody saw me. Indeed, somebody saw me. Yes, God saw me, but He does not judge me. In point of fact, this is the aspect that struck me the most. This love is unfathomable. It is not like the love that we feel here on earth. Rather, this love is a force of love. God does not judge us. Rather, He loves us with an unconditional love. Everyone will one day have to give an account to God for the things they did while they were on earth. In contrast to Hitler, every one of us have some measure of light and kindness inside us, and this will enable us to spread the light that God has given us. When you get older, especially as a teenager, it's easy to develop a pessimistic outlook on life and find yourself questioning things like, if there is a God, why this or why that? Why did He let Hitler get away with it? The list could go on and on.